Assalamualaikum student. I'm your physics teacher from iWise School. Now we are going to start a new chapter, that is motion and force. So before starting this chapter, you must know that this chapter belongs to the branch of physics called dynamics. Dynamics is actually the branch of mechanics. Mechanics is in very first chapter you have studied that mechanics is the branch of physics in which we are studying the motion with or without the reference of a force. So in this chapter we are going to study about the dynamics. Mechanics is further divided into two branches, that is kinematics and dynamics. So kinematics is the branch of physics in which we are dealing with the motion of the body without the reference of force. And dynamics is the branch of physics in which we are studying with the reference of the force. So this chapter belongs to the branch of physics called dynamics. So student, can you define dynamics? Yes. It is the branch of mechanics that deal with the study of the cause of motion and the way they affect the motion. Its mean in this branch we are going to study that how the motion is produced and how they affect the motion. And cause of motion means force. Force is responsible to produce a motion in a body. So in a dynamics we study about the force and how they affect the motion. So to understand the force, our very first topic is force. To understand the force, we must consider some examples. Through this example, you can easily understand the definitions of the force. So, as you see in this picture, that everyone wants to do some work or they want to push or pull the object. So, to move the object, they will be applied some force on it. Either the force is a push or a pull. So, we can say that force is needed to move an object. Okay, now we move to the other one. Now again look at the picture very carefully. As you say in a picture that a goalkeeper wants to stop the ball from rolling into the ground, into the net, and when someone throw a ball toward me, I will stop it by catching the ball. So I also want to stop the motion of the ball as the goalkeeper want to stop the motion of the ball. So we can say that force is needed to stop a moving object. I hope that you can understand it. And now we're moving toward the next one. In this example, as you can see in a picture, that hands are using to stretch the spring. So in this way, we can change the shape of the spring. And again, in the second one, hands are using to bend the metal rod. And in this way, we also change the shape of the metal rod. And in the third one, hammer is used to squeeze a can. So by observing these three diagrams, we can easily say that force can change a shape of an object. Or we can also say that force produces a distortion in a body. So what do you understand by distortion? Distortion means change in a shape. So these three examples will help us to understand the definition of the force. Now we can easily understand the definition of a force. So how we define the force? Force can be defined as an agent which produces or tends to produce the motion in a body, or which stop or tends to stop the motion of a body. Or in other words, we can say that force is an agent which produces distortion in a body to which it is applied. And the formula of a force is F is equals to ma, where F stands for force, M stands for mass, and A stands for acceleration. Now the unit of the force is, in the SI system is Newton, and we abbreviate it by the capital letter N. So the formula and the unit, the derivation of the formula and unit will be discussed later in this class. Okay, so so student, take a screenshot of this slide. It will help you to complete your home task. Okay, so we are moving forward. Now, the Newton's law or laws of motion. Newton sum up the basic principles of motion in their three laws, which are Newton's first law of motion, Newton's second law of motion, and Newton's third law of motion. So we will study all the three laws, and in our today's class we study Newton's first law of motion and we will study Newton's second law of motion. So first we are moving toward the Newton first law of motion. So student, before starting this statement, just look around yourself. You will find many objects around yourself which are at a rest position or which are at a stationary position. So think about it, that why they do not move, and can they move by themselves? Yes, they cannot move by themselves. By and it only happen if we want to move it, we have to apply the force on it. So the force which we are going to apply it on these stationary object, we consider as an external force. Okay, now think about it, that why the motion of the earth and planets and moons will not stop, because they are due to force, because the absence of the external force. And just think about that, if we roll a ball on the ground and it will cover some distance, and after some time it will it will stop. So student, tell me that why it is happened that some object which are at a stationary state continue its stationary state or rest position, and some object continue its moving position or uniform motion, and some object after having a motion will stop. Can you tell me why this happened? Yes, it is all because of the force. If the object is at rest position, so we are going to apply some external force in it, then it will move. So the force which we are going to apply on it is considered as the external force. And if the ball is rolling on the ground, will stop after some time. So why it is stopped? It is stopped due to the friction force. So friction force is considered as the external force which stop the motion of the ball. And similarly, if we apply any external force on the planets or Earth and Moon motion, then it will stop. Okay. So now you can easily understand the statement of the first law of motion. And the statement is, every object continue its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless it is acted upon by an external force which change its state of rest or of uniform motion. So hopefully you will understand that statement. And the example is also similar, as we have discussed, that a book on the table cannot change its position by itself unless a force is applied on it. So that force which we are applying is considered as an external force. And in example 2, if we push a ball on the ground, it should continue its uniform motion, but it stop after covering certain distance. This happened because of the force of friction. And this force of friction considered as the external force. Okay. So again, take a screenshot of this slide and it will also help you. Okay, class student. So Newton's first law of motion gives us the conclusion which can be drawn into the 2 points. So in a very first point is the definition of the force. It's mean Newton's first law statement give us the definition of a force. And what is that definition? Force is an agent which produce or tends to produce a change in the state of rest or of uniform motion in a body. And the second point gives us the definition of inertia. So first I read it and then I will explain you. All the material objects possess the property of opposing any change in their state of rest or of uniform motion. So student, what is the meaning of property? Property means characteristics of a body. And opposing any change. Opposing any change means every material object try to resist in its existing state. If a body is at rest, it will remain at rest. And if a body is in motion, it remain in a uniform motion and resist to produce a change in its state. So this tendency of a body to resist a change is considered as a inertia. So in this way, we can say that Newton's first law gives us the definition of a two term in force and inertia. So again, take a screenshot of this side and it will be help you. Okay, we are moving further. So to understand a better understanding of inertia, we will consider some example. In a very first example, you will see that we take a coin and place it on a card, and this card will place on a glass. So if I flick the coin with my finger, the card will move, but the coin will drop into the glass. So student, why it has happened that coin drop into the glass? It has happened due to the inertia. When I flick the card is moved, but due to the inertia, coin try to resist the change produced in its body and it will drop down into the glass. Okay, so to understand other example, we will consider another example, and in this example, this is an everyday example and you will observe it many times. When we are sitting in a bus and the bus start to move, we feel a jerk in the backward direction. We feel a jerk in the backward direction. As you see in the picture that the arrow indicates that we feel a jerk on the backward direction. So it's, what does it mean? That if we are sitting on a bus, our lower part of the bus will attach with the floor of the bus, but the upper part of the body will continue its rest position. When the buses start, our lower part will move toward the rest. Our lower part will move with the bus, but the upper part will try to resist in its existing state. So, in this way, we feel a jerk in the backward direction. Now, if the moving bus will stop, what will happen? We again feel a jerk on the forward direction. So it is also due to the inertia that our body is in motion. So our body try to resist ourselves in a uniform motion. But as the bus stops, so we also have to stop. So in this way, our body, due to the inertia, feel a jerk on the forward direction. So take a screenshot and these examples will help you to understand or to complete your home task. Okay. Now, as I told you, students, that inertia is the tendency of a body to resist a change. So, tell me one thing. We have many objects. Some are big, some are small, some are large, some are heavier, and some are lighter. So, does every body possess the same amount of inertia? Yes, it does not happen. Uh, Everybody does not have a same amount of inertia. So to understand that point, to understand that point, we consider some example. We take a two bars. One is heavier and the one is lighter. One is heavier and the other one is lighter. Means it has a greater mass, and this one, shorter one, have a small mass. So, student, tell me one thing. That which bar is easy to move? Yes, it's very obvious that the smaller mass bar is easy to move, and by the application of small amount of force, we can easily move it. So we can say that heavier the object, the more is the tendency to resist, because we need a more force or greater amount of force to increase to move it. So it's mean that if mass is greater, inertia will be greater, and if mass is less, so inertia will be less. I hope that you will understand it and take a screenshot of these slides. And I'm again repeated that if a bar having a greater mass possess a greater amount of inertia, and the bar which is having a less mass possesses a small amount of inertia. Okay, now we are moving toward, and we will set that mass is a measure of inertia. That is, the greater the mass of an object, the greater will be the inertia, because greater force is needed to change its state. Okay, student. So, we again moving toward the second law of motion. So student, here our Newton's first law of motion will end, and I will sum up that first law gives us the definition of a force and the inertia. Now, the Newton's second law. Newton's second law determines the mathematical form of force. Means here we can study about the formula of the force, and it shows a relation between the mass, acceleration and force. Okay, so we are going to understand the Newton's second law. So, student, to understand the second law, we must consider some conditions. In a very first condition, when different forces acting on the same mass. So, we take a two ball, or first one is A and the second one is B. So the mass of the two balls are same. As I told you that we are taking the same masses. So the mass of the two balls are same, and we are applying a force on it. As you can see in a slide that F1 is applying on a body A, and it produces acceleration A1. Okay, it produced acceleration a1. So the arrows, both the arrow were in a same direction. This arrow show that force produce acceleration in its own direction. As you still see that the direction of both the arrows are same, so we can say that force produce acceleration in its own direction. And now we take a body B with the same mass, and we are applying a force on it, and the force is F2. Now student, this F2 is less than the F1. We are applying a greater force on a body A, and we applied a small force on our body B. So F2 also produce acceleration in its own direction, but at this time, as the force is less, so the acceleration is also less. Okay, so we can say that F1 is greater than F2. Now student, tell me one thing, that which body will move fast? Just remember one thing, that F1 is greater than F2. Means F1 is greater force and F2 is less force. Yes, you are right that if as the F1 is greater, so the body A will move with the greater acceleration, and as F2 is smaller, so body B will move with the smaller acceleration. So we can say that the greater force will produce greater acceleration, while less force produce less acceleration. So this condition give us the relation of force and acceleration, and the relation between these two quantities is directly proportional. And what do you understand by directly proportional? Directly proportional means if the two quantities were related to each other in such a way that by increasing the one quantity, other quantity will also increase. As you can see that by increasing the force, acceleration is also increased, and by decreasing the force, acceleration is also decreased. So we can say that acceleration and force are directly proportional to each other. So student, take a screenshot of this slide, and it is also given in your book. Okay, so we are moving toward the second condition. In a second condition, when same forces is acting on the different masses. Now, at this time, we take two different balls. Ball A having a mass m1 and ball B having a mass m2. And m1 is greater than the m2, means body B has a greater mass, body A has a greater mass, and body B has a smaller mass. Now we are going to apply the force, and students, remember it that at this time we are going to apply the same force on the body of two different masses. So what will happen? Which ball will move fast? Yes, the ball having a small mass will move fast because it is easy to accelerate it. So we can say that acceleration produced in lighter ball will be greater than acceleration produced in a heavier ball. As you can say that mass is small and it produces a greater acceleration. And in a body A, you can see that mass is greater, but it produces a smaller acceleration. So what will be the relation of the mass and acceleration? Yes, they are inversely proportional to each other. And what do you mean by inversely proportional? Inversely proportional means if one quantity is increasing, so the other is decreasing. In this way, we can say that it is inversely proportional. And how we write it? We write the A for the acceleration, and we place the symbol of proportionality, and we write the mass in the fraction form. because this fraction form showed that acceleration and mass are inversely proportional to each other. Okay, so take a screenshots of this slide and we will move further. Let's show the inverse relation, inversely proportional relation with the acceleration and mass. Okay, now we are moving towards the statement of the Newton's second law of motion. And what is the statement? When a force acts on an object, it produces acceleration in the object in its own direction. This acceleration is directly proportional to the magnitude of the applied force and inversely proportional to the mass. I hope it will help. The previous two conditions will help you to understand the statement of the Newton's second law of motion. Now, the explanation. Actually, it is a derivation of the formula of a mass. Now we consider an object of mass m placed on a frictionless surface. According to the given statement, when a force is applied on an object, it accelerates in the direction of force. And it is observed that, so student, just remember that the two conditions which we have discussed earlier, we just use these two equations. When mass is constant, so we have derived that acceleration is directly proportional to the force. And when force is constant, means when we are applying the similar force on the two different masses, so it gives the relation A is inversely proportional to mass. Now, we are going to combine these two relations, and the expression will become acceleration directly proportional to the force and acceleration is inversely proportional to the mass. That is the expression in which we are combining these two relations. Okay, so in the next step, we will change the directly proportional sign to the equals to sign. And whenever we do this, we have to apply a constant. And this constant is depend upon the different quantities of the equation. So here this constant is abbreviated with a capital letter K and known as constant of proportionality. So the equation will become ma is equals to kf. So what step we do in this step? What simplification we do in this step? The simplification is that we shift the mass from the right hand side to the left hand side, and as you can see that it is in a denominator, or we can say that it divide with the force, so it will move toward and it multiply with the acceleration, and the equation will become ma is equals to kf. And student, remember one thing, that k is the constant of proportionality. Okay, I hope you will understand it. And now we are moving further, that the SI system, the value of k is 1. So now we are going to put the value of k. So ma is equals to f, and in place of k we place its value, and the equation will become force is equals to ma. So this is the derivation of the final formula of a force, and F represent force, M represent mass, and A represent acceleration. Okay, so student, to find the unit of a force, just remember one thing, that whenever we want to find the or to drive the unit of any quantity, what we have to do, we just have to place the units in the emplacement of quantities. So as we have derived the formula, that is F is equals to ma, so we are going to write the unit of mass, that is kilogram, in place of m, and in place of a or acceleration, we are going to write its unit, and which is mass per meter square, meter per second square. So the combinedly it will be equals to the Newton, and how we read it, kilogram meter per second square, and collectively it will equal to the Newton. So that's how we derive a formula of a unit of a force, Newton. Okay, students, so take a screenshot of this slide, that will give the formula of a force and unit of a force, that is Newton. Now, okay, student, as in our previous chapters we have learned that we know the standard of measurements. Means we have a standard of kilogram, we have a standard of meter, and we have a standard of second. So similarly, when the scientists invent this Newton unit, so they also need some standard. So due to this requirement, they consider that what quantity will be equal to Newton. They consider that if we take a mass of 1 kilogram and a force required to accelerate it 1 meter per second square, then we can say that it is equals to the 1 Newton. So how we define it? That force acting on a body is said to be 1 Newton if it produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in a body of mass 1 kilogram in the direction of the applied force. So that's how it is the standard of a Newton, and we call it the definition of a 1 Newton. Okay. So the example of this second one. Pushing a car is easier than pushing a truck. It's very obvious, and you can observe in your daily life that pushing a car is much easier than a pushing a truck. So why it is happened? It is happened because with a small amount of force, as the mass of the car is lesser than the mass of the truck. That's why the pushing a car is easier to pushing a truck. And we are going to having a home task. Okay, so question number 1 is you have to do this home task in your fair copies. Define the following terms with examples: force and inertia. The students answer, you can find the answer from side number 7 and 11. And remember one thing, that you have to give the examples. And when you are defining a force and inertia, so try to define write formula, unit, and nature, and all that thing. Okay, so in a question number 2, state Newton's first law of motion with 2 examples. This is also present in the slide number 10 and 11. From this slide, you can find the first law of motion, the statement, and the 2 conclusion point, and example were also given. And state second law of motion and drive F is equals to ma, and also give one example. This is also you can find the answer from slide number 20, 21, 22, and 24. And define unit 1 Newton. Okay, this is also present in the slide number 23. Take a screenshot of this slide, and so you can easily do your home task in your fair copies. And remember one thing, that these 4 questions you have to do in your fair copies. Okay.